Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be reviewing the Google/Nest doorbell battery. So this is the new one. It is battery operated but also can be hardwired. So just to preface this review, I bought this coming from a Ring Pro. That's the one that comes with the chime, which is like a Wi-Fi extender, and it was the best one I could get at the time. Now the reason I wanted to change up my doorbell is because I haven't been overly happy with Ring. I find that sometimes the notifications are really delayed. If someone rings the doorbell, by the time you press answer, it just sometimes never loads. It's like there's just way too much data going back and forth between the Ring servers and my house, and it never loads. So I've never been overly happy with Ring, but unfortunately this is worse. So I'm going to be returning this, but I wanted to do a quick review to explain why, the things I didn't like, but the things I also liked. So the main reason for buying this doorbell is I absolutely love the feature where it can detect people's faces and tell you that someone's at the door, so you can register people's faces, and it'll tell you that person's at the door, which was absolutely amazing. It worked really well for my testing. I had one picture of my face and it would detect me even on the side, even just a really quick glance, things like that. It would detect me straight away. So big kudos to Google on that. It worked really well. But I'm going to go through a list of some of the things that I didn't like, and then I'll talk about just generally overall some things that I did like. But the main things I didn't like, well, the main reason I'm actually going to be returning this is the biggest reason is that although I wasn't really happy with Ring in terms of their speed of notifications and things like that, this is much worse. It's about double the delay. So if someone rings the doorbell with this one, well, the Ring doorbell, let's talk about that first. If someone rings my Ring doorbell, it usually rings within, if it's a good day, good connection, sometimes instantly, sometimes up to a few seconds. Whereas with this doorbell, 5 to 6 seconds was the fastest, but on average it would go up to 10 seconds. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, your network's no good and things like that, but I've done extensive testing. I work in IT, so I understand all this stuff. The network speed and the reception and all that kind of stuff is perfectly fine at the front door. I've got plenty of other devices in the same area that have no issues whatsoever. And it's a very high bit rate at the front door, streaming devices and things like that. So it's nothing to do with that. What I believe it is the Google servers, because obviously when someone rings the doorbell, it goes to Google first and then comes back to your house. Same with Ring and all the other kind of doorbells that use cloud system like that. I just believe that the Google network's a bit slower, or quite a bit slower than Ring's, potentially because Google have a lot of things going on. They might not be able to service as many people, and they're getting quite popular. So they might not be able to service as many people as well. Whereas with Ring, their main dedication is their doorbell, so I think they just focus on that, whereas Google has a lot of other things going on. You'd think that'd be better considering Google, you know, the amount of server space and things like that they own. But yeah, unfortunately, so basically I worked out in the end it was nothing to do with my network, because if you can compare it to the Ring doorbell is far superior in terms of the speed of notifications and things like that. So yeah, if someone rings the doorbell, quite a bit of delay to the devices in the house as well as our phones. So even the Google Hub would take a while, like 6-7 seconds to ring and say that someone was there. Even just trying to view the live view of the camera takes about 10 seconds, whereas Ring is more like 2 or 3 seconds. Now these might not sound like major things, but if someone rings the doorbell, especially a courier, they like to just hit the doorbell and leave pretty quickly. And the Ring is bad enough with delays, so I often miss couriers and things like that. I have to run out chasing them. But this doorbell would be even worse. It was, like I said, double the speed or double the amount of time with the delays. It's just way too long for me. And even the motion notifications, by the time you get them on your phone, the person or whatever's going on is long gone. Another thing I didn't like is that Google, from what I've read and what I've seen, they have and actually what I've experienced now, they have a cooldown between notifications. And what that means is if someone rings the doorbell, and then maybe a minute later someone else rings it, it won't notify you the second time because it's got some notification cooldown, which is very annoying, because I've actually had couriers come, you know, within minutes apart and things like that. And it's the same with motion notifications, which is really annoying because I want to know everything that's going on because it's all about security. Whereas Ring is quite the opposite. It can be very annoying with too many notifications, but I'd rather that because I can turn them off or snooze them. I'd certainly rather that than miss notifications just because Google decides. Google's reasoning behind it was they don't want to annoy their users with too many notifications, but it's a load of BS. I think they're just trying to save a bit of their bandwidth by not sending notifications back. I'm not too sure, but it's horrible. I think everyone wants to know what's going on and everyone wants the notifications no matter what. They can always turn them off. You can always turn down a sensitivity and things like that. So I think that's just a lame excuse from Google. Next thing I don't like is it shows up in portrait orientation. So as you're watching me right now, this is like widescreen 16:9, whereas this is, it's like a portrait. So it's good because you can see quite far down on your porch floor and your roof, but it's good if someone drops a package off and things like that, you can see all that stuff. But I prefer the Ring, which is a lot more wide angle because it can see my whole front door, but it can also see the street, which is really good for security and things like that. Just to have a look, I can see a lot of things going on. Whereas this, it's just very, very restricted field of view. It would have been cool if they either had it just widescreen or if they did both. I know the new Ring Pro 2, it's more of a square and it's wide both widthways and heightways. I wish they'd done that because yeah, I like the field of view that Ring gives me compared to this Nest Doorbell. It's just it's too narrow. The up and down's good, but it's just too narrow. Another thing I don't like is on the doorbell, I'm going to have a close up now, but on the doorbell where the actual button is, I wish Google had included like an icon of a bell or a picture of a bell or something like that, because for someone who's first seen the doorbell, someone who might be in a rush, they might not be sure where the button is straight away. I remember when I had my very, very first Ring doorbell, it wasn't really clear where the button was, and I used to see couriers, like when I'd watch back recordings, they'd be trying to find the button, they'd be pressing the camera lens and all sorts of things like that. Whereas the new ones, it's a lot more obvious where the button is. This one is kind of obvious where the button is because it does light up and it's like a little light that spins around, which looks really cool. But if someone's in a hurry or something like that, it's just not really 100% obvious where the button is. I think a little bell would have looked pretty cool. And if I was to keep this, I probably would have got a little sticker printed up with a bell on it or something like that. So just quickly, I realized I missed something, and going back to those delayed notifications or sometimes not receiving any notifications at all, the doorbell does record those things. So when I do go back into the app, I do see that the doorbell has detected that and has recorded that, but it just hasn't let me know, which is a little bit frustrating because, like I said, I want to know if there's any movement or anyone at my door, regardless of how soon they happen together. I can always snooze it. I can always turn notifications off if they're annoying. So the other thing that's a little bit of a shame is that at the moment, from what I can see in Australia, there's only the one color, which is this white color. This is probably the color I would have chosen anyway because it would look good on my house. But I do know there are other colors now, but perhaps just not in Australia yet. I have seen some other colors, but that's one little thing. The other thing is physically it is quite big, but that's obvious. It has quite a big battery in it and things like that. So that's not a big deal. It's just quite a lot bigger than a Ring device. The Ring I have now is hardwired, so it has no battery at all, and it's quite small. It's quite a good size. This one I was going to hardwire as well, even though it is battery. I'd rather it hardwired because I'm not having to worry about charging batteries and things. From what I've read, most people I think have said this doorbell lasts about 3 to 4 weeks on a single charge, which isn't too bad, and it takes about 6 hours to charge the doorbell. Now, one of the really big things that really annoys me about Google, and it's extremely annoying because this is the kind of stuff they specialize in, and that's that, and apparently you used to be able to do this and Google got rid of it. I don't know why Google has a habit of getting rid of things that people like, but what I would love for this doorbell to have been able to do is if it detects motion to turn on one of my smart switches or something in my house, because that way I could have used it as like a porch light sensor. So if the doorbell senses motion, it can turn the porch light on. I'm currently doing that now with some real cheap ass smart switches from the hardware store, and they're nothing special and they do an amazing job with that. So it's just crazy how you can't even do that with Google. Apparently, yeah, you used to be able to do it. The only thing I've found is you can use routines, but it involves talking to a speaker to do something, which is pretty useless. There are other apps and other ways you can get it to do it, but it's just a massive mess around, and I wish it was just standard with Google Home. But unfortunately it's not. It's incredibly frustrating. So in terms of the build quality and things like that, I find it's actually really nice. It's got a nice solid weight to it. It's very nice looking. The only thing I don't like is it's got this line across where the two black pieces join the camera. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if they joined them in two separate pieces, but that would have been nice if it was just one piece. I'm not sure why that is, but that's something you look at up close, and from further away you wouldn't even notice it. So it's not a big deal. So in my opinion, the build quality and the look of it is actually really nice. Now, the other feature that I absolutely loved, and the main reason I bought this doorbell, was for the biometric detection. So it can actually detect faces and announce that person. So if I came to the door, it would say, "Michael's at your door." That worked extremely well. So it took one photo. I took one photo of me, not a photo. I used one of the video samples to tell Google Home that that was me, or I wrote the name in, and it detected me every single time, even if my face was turned. It was really fast. It worked really well. It was good at detecting animals and things like that. Absolutely fantastic. I wish the notifications and things like that were just better, because if it was, I definitely would have kept this doorbell over the Ring. But unfortunately for now, Ring is just a better choice for me. yeah, I can't miss doorbell notifications and things like that. If it's going to be this bad, I may as well just get an old school normal doorbell with a chime and just live like that. So yeah, if Google could fix those kind of things, and I'll keep an eye on the forums and things like that, if Google can get better with the speed of the notifications and turning off this sleeping notifications thing, that would be absolutely fantastic. It'd be an amazing product, but unfortunately, yeah, like I said, I need to know when someone's at my door, and I need it to be reasonably quick. I expect there'll be some kind of delay with all the cloud stuff happening, but not as slow as this. I just think, and actually another thing I should mention is I did see a lot of reviews where people pressed the doorbell and it notified their hubs and things within a few seconds, maybe 2 or 3 seconds, which is absolutely fantastic. But that's going to come down to a lot of factors such as your internet speed, your Wi-Fi, like your network. But the main thing is, because I know those two things of mine are absolutely fantastic because I have plenty of other devices with no problems. The speed or the distance you might be from the nearest Google data center or the Google server that's sending these notifications, I'm not sure how far I'd be from that or how much latency and stuff there is between those, but perhaps that's got something to do with it. Because I've actually seen a whole lot of complaints on forums and Reddit about the delayed notifications, but then other people saying it's absolutely fantastic, they're almost instant. So I think it's gonna be one of those things, you might have a good experience or you might have a bad one, but yeah, unfortunately, as I've said, for me, it's just the notifications is way too delayed to have it as a doorbell. I need to know when someone's there straight away so I can go and answer the door. And yeah, even a 3-second delay is bad enough because that's 3 seconds for it to ring and then you've actually got to make it to the door. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed the review. I didn't mean to just crap all over it, but unfortunately it just doesn't meet exactly what I wanted. But hopefully they do improve in the future and I might revisit it once again. But if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks very much for watching.